New Jersey also has some new gun regulations on the books.
Yeah, Governor Murphy signed them into law yesterday. Among the new regulations, the package requires training for gun purchasers, bans the sale of most .50 caliber rifles, requires ammunition sales records, and increases penalties for making so-called ghost guns, untraceable homemade firearms.
It also gives the Attorney General broader leeway to sue gun makers and dealers. And here to discuss the new laws is Union County Democrat State Senator Joseph Cryan, who co-sponsored several of those new laws. Senator, thanks for being with us today.
Morning, Craig and Hazel. Nice to see you both.
Well, sir, what do you hope this package will accomplish?
Well, I hope it continues the culture in New Jersey of not accepting gun violence as part of our everyday life. No one bill, no one piece of legislation will ever eliminate the tragedies we've seen as recently as Highland Park on Sunday, and I know most folks can name a number of mass shootings and tragedies that they've witnessed or heard about in the past few months. The idea is to create a culture in our society that doesn't permit the use of guns in violent activities, and to make sure that our residents are as safe as they can be. I credit the governor for his leadership, and frankly, I think we still have more to do.
Yeah, well, the governor now wants to do what New York did, make certain areas like schools, stadiums, totally off limits for guns, similar to what New York has just done. So what's your feeling right now? Are you optimistic that it's going to pass?
I'm very optimistic that it's going to pass. And in the conversations we had yesterday that you referenced in the bill signings, we talked about it with legislative leadership that we're going to come back hopefully this summer and actually follow many of the items that you listed as part of the New York law. Our residents deserve to be safe. No one in, I don't believe it's part of New Jersey's culture or even the Northeast culture that you're walking down the aisle in the ShopRite and somebody has a weapon on their hip next to you as they're picking out their meat. It just doesn't work that way here. It's not what our safe state's about.
Well, sir, let's look at what one gun rights advocate had to say about banning guns in certain sensitive places. Let's take a listen.
The notion to think that some violent rapist is going to sit there and say, you know what, I'm not going to do this here because there's a sensitive area. It's absurd. You can do nothing but put a giant target on every person's chest saying, I'm a defenseless victim.
Okay, so Senator Cryan, if people carried guns in crowded areas, why wouldn't that deter criminals from striking there?
Why wouldn't it? It wouldn't, because in the most densely populated state in the country, the idea of being able to have some sort of free-for-all where weapons are highly available and open to the public would simply make gun violence matters worse. New Jersey's got a record of being, along with New York, as being one of the safest states in the country in terms of gun violence overall. And we think that's very important. We think that's why those laws are important, because they create that culture, as I mentioned earlier, where it's not permitted. You don't do it. The registrations are important. For example, the bills yesterday require training, require registration of firearms that come in from out of state, allow us to finally go after gun manufacturers for the horror and the violence that they perpetrate. And I think it's important that folks realize that in this state, we're going to continue to work for their safety in crowded areas or rural areas all throughout the state.
Yeah, and despite the rise in gun violence, there's still a lot of critics. So do you anticipate any legal challenges to these laws?
Yes, we do. Realistically, given the court's rulings, which I think everyone in this country has learned the importance of the Supreme Court over the past 10 days, the idea of concealed carry now being the law of the land, you'll find us not only take the action we talked about earlier, but you'll find us, more importantly, trying to find creative ways to defend these type of laws, because we're going to have a problem with them in the courts for sure.
Yeah. Well, these bills were tied up for quite a while. Do you think they would have passed without the horror of the recent mass shootings in Buffalo and Texas? Did that jar lawmakers into real action this time?
I think it brought a sense of urgency to the matter. But I think, given the governor's leadership, Governor Murphy, this is a 3.0 package, as he referenced. I was the author of the original ghost gun ban, for example, and you've seen that use of ghost guns explode throughout the tri-state region. I think what you find is that lawmakers felt the urgency to do something, but also it has been part of the New Jersey fabric that we continue to fight for resident safety.
Well, the lieutenant governor said New Jersey really knows what it takes to stop these mass shootings. So are you very confident then that these new laws are going to accomplish that?
No, I am not. No, I'd be misleading your viewers and both of you to say that somehow these laws are the silver bullet that we've needed, so to speak. They're not. There's so much more that goes to it, but you continue to take each step you can to make sure that your residents are as safe as they can possibly be.
Senator, you described it as 3.0. Let's look, a little further to maybe 4.0. What further gun legislation would you like to see?
Well, I'd like to see us raise the age of firearm purchases, particularly long rifles, to the age of 21. We don't do that here in New Jersey. It's 18. That to me is crazy, and I think the recent incidents have shown just how important that legislation is. In New Jersey, we have safe storage. The idea of storing your weapon and your ammunition in separate compartments at night, we think is pretty important as well. And there's a number of others, but those are the two key ones.
All right. Well, New Jersey State Senator Joseph Cryan, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us this morning, and hopefully these new measures will help.
Kind of you to have me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.